Hey, if you're the owner of a professional service firm like an agency or consultancy, or you have a practice, and if you haven't productized your business, you're missing out on perhaps the best opportunity, or the only, I would say, to build a profitable, scalable business that you can sell sometime in the future. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what I did. This was already more than 10 years ago as I productized my first service offering in my brand consultancy, how that led me to making several millions in sales and a 45% net profit margin on my brick and mortar business. Like, remember, this was like 10 years ago. This was way before AI and we didn't have a lot of automation. I was still able to make an 80% margin on my offering. After I productized my own business, I never looked back. After that. Everything I do pretty much is productized. So if you are in the same situation, you're either running an agency or a consultancy, or you have a practice or some sorts, or you're doing, selling stuff online, productizing is the key. And before I dive into what exactly I did, I'm going to start by sharing, my program called Beta, which is a productized service for productizing services. And yes, sure, I'm promoting it and I hope you join it, but I also want to show it because you can see where I landed by doing this for all these clients back in the day. I'm going to share exactly what I did, who I did it for. I'm going to share the process, and hopefully that will sort of inspire you to do the same in your business, whether you join my program or not. I want to start by talking about productization, so we kind of have a shared understanding of what it is. So I'm going to jump into some slides here. So first, you can see here is Beta, and the way I've branded it is through really this metaphoric box here, because what I believe is when you're productizing, essentially what you're doing is just standardizing. If you look at the product business, it's all about standardizing, making choices about a product, and you're not going to change those things. And the problem with services often is like, we tend to go out of our way to create goodwill with clients, and we customize. And that is really the problem. That's really the reason why, service businesses or professional service businesses are so hard to scale, if not impossible to scale, because you're probably serving way too many different clients with way too many different problems, and you're doing it in way too many different ways. And so productizing is kind of the opposite of that. So let me just go quickly into, so here's the offer that I created. This is Beta, is a specific method that you use to productize a service. So what I promise, and what my specific promise is build a scalable service product in 30 days. That's my promise, and my method, which I call the Beta method, is built around what I learned doing this over 400 times for FMCG clients, which is a whole different target group. So I'm going to share that, but I wanted to first show you what a productized service could look like. So again, I use an image here, and that image, again, with the box, is basically saying, hey, you who are selling services and they're kind of vague and kind of hard to define, they're hard to buy, let's put that in the box and color the box. Let's give it a name. Let's standardize it. Let's fix, the name, the duration, the price, and all these different aspects of it. So to me, that's really what productizing is all about. And so why would you do that? Well, there are many great benefits to it. First of all, it gives you leverage. Leverage meaning you build it once and then you sell it forever. As the other, the custom model would be more about, hey, you figure out a client problem, and then you create a unique solution that they maybe buy once. I don't know about you, but back in my brand consultancy day, like our servers were filled with proposals that we maybe sold once, and maybe many of them we never sold. And so this is all about taking what you know how to do, your expertise, and creating your unique flavor and putting it into a product that you create once, and then you can make adaptations, but really you sell it. So you get a lot more time, because not only does it take you much less time to sell it, it is also standardized, so you can use automation. It depends on what type of product it is, of course. Productized service could be even a book, like a code. But I'm talking more about something where you play an active role, like maybe it's a done for you type service, maybe it's a done with you type service. But you standardize your tools, your templates, and everything. And for everything that you design as either automated or a tool or anything, you're going to take out time from the delivery, which gives you leverage. The other great thing about it, of course, it's scalable. It's really the only way to scale a service business, because other, all custom services aren't really scalable, because you're also not building the backend processes. That means that somebody else than you, who has maybe the most expertise in your company, or maybe you're alone, is going to be able to deliver it. You're going to get so much more efficiency also by knowing that there's a clear process with tools for how to deliver the value consistently. And so that makes it's easier to sell, it's easier to buy, it's more predictable. You can deliver predictable results, which helps with your reputation, helps with your brand, helps with your positioning. It provides consistency. And again, it can make things a lot more profitable, and you can deliver results faster. So for example, as I've done more than 1,000, or let's say I have been involved in over 1,000 different productizations, and I've done over 500 myself, I can productize very quickly. I can sometimes do it in 24 hours. And so therefore, I'm able to say to my clients, and perhaps you, if you're interested, that we'll get it done in 30 days. If I can lean in, I can help you, I could probably do it even faster. But 30 days means it's a pretty attractive offering and value proposition, and that's really the core idea behind you creating a productized service offering. Is like, what specific product does it solve? So let's say creating all these bespoke offerings over and over and over is very time consuming, etc., where you can create something much faster. Like that would be just one example of it. So customized services is kind of the one extreme, and standardized services is the other extreme. And so I'm not going to read through all these things. You can read it and pause this video if you want to. But essentially, you're going to find maybe the middle ground somewhere where you can provide a bit of customization. That's always great if you want to. I don't like the fully customized model. It's great when you have really big clients and they're going to ask you to jump whenever they want something, you're going to do whatever. But then you have to have great billings, great contract, which very few people do. Here's really the simplest way I can describe productization. It's like they say, you figure out a client pain. There's a problem, there's some pain, they're in pain, and you want to put a kind of a finger on exactly where they're at, why they're at where they're at, what the pain is, what the consequence is of not changing. And on the other side, it's like, what is the desired outcome? What does it mean to solve the problem? What's the result they're looking for? And you position your productized service offering in between. It's kind of like the bridge between those points. And so your unique mechanism, your process essentially is a way of taking them from one side to the other side. It's like there's this imaginary river in between, and they are afraid of stepping into it. And you basically provide the bridge between those 2 points. So I created this beta method, and this beta method really grew out of what I learned with working with all these product brands, with this FMCG brands. I learned that it's much better to kind of go through this process really quickly and think of it as kind of like a learning funnel. So rather than sitting around and trying to come up with a perfect product, the best way is actually to go out into the marketplace, to interview some people, to have a hypothesis of what you think could be a great service, and then look for some insights and really kind of try to validate the pain points and the problem that you're trying to solve. So in my process, the first step is really working with framing the problem. Like, what problem are you solving for who? Specifically, which problem? Specifically for who? What specific pain are they in? And what are they looking for? So when you know that, you can create propositions. And I say that in plural mode because you want to create a lot of different propositions, and then you're going to make sure that you match the right proposition, the value proposition, with the problem so it fits like a glove. So you really feel like, okay, here's a type of client with a specific problem and the pain and the consequence that you kind of figured out. And by the way, I have tools for all these things. So if you join beta at any time, you'll be able to get guidance and a step-by-step process for doing this. You go through the problem, you articulate the value proposition, and then the third step is building out the product. And that could be just a prototype. And usually what we do is we first test these value props with potential clients even before we build it. So we build it as we go, and that way we can be out in the marketplace in a matter of days or weeks, not months. And that's kind of the beta method in a nutshell. So what I've done to productize, I have videos, I have tools, and I do coaching calls to support people where I give them feedback because I'm begin to simplifying, and I'm pretty good with value propositions and all that to help people as they go through this process. Okay, so what did I do back in the day? Now I'm going to go back memory lane, and we're going to talk about my brand consultancy called Wonder. And I want to talk about how I productized one particular area out of my, I should say 5 or 6 service areas. I was doing things like everybody else. It was vague, it was broad. I picked one particular problem that I could solve specifically for a specific type of client. And I was able to make several millions in sales. And like I said, 45% net profit margin in my business. So it was amazing. This all started with my brand consultancy, my small brand consultancy. At the time, we were maybe 10 people. I think first I was doing it like everybody else. So I was like, I'm a strategist. So I did brand strategy, but we also did research. One of the ladies here in this picture is actually our insights and research person. So there was insights, research, strategy. We did internal brand engagement and culture. We were doing concepts like quite broadly, which is really what we then productized. And then we're doing visual identity, branding, like pretty much all over the spectrum. Because I figured out that some of my clients had a specific problem, and that was they were in the FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and industries, whether they were selling alcohol or protein bars or coffee or foods, or it doesn't really matter. Like, we worked in all these industries, but we started in the spirits industry, and we knew that our clients were struggling to get more new brands and more products onto the shelves. And so there's a specific process for getting into those shelves. They had to present a number of new concepts, from like just line extensions to new brands. And we knew that they weren't so very successful in doing so. And I figured out that the way they were doing that was that they did it in a product-led way, which means essentially there's some people in product development that came up with a new flavor, and then somebody in marketing kind of came up with a bit of story and a name. And I thought, like, hey, that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, shouldn't really be flipping the process so that we actually first do, trend analysis, consumer analysis, and we develop value propositions that we don't even have to build a product, but we can test them. And the reason for that, especially in spirits, is that come on, how many people know the difference between one vodka and the other? Like, it's so image and brand led that it was actually a very good industry to go into and test value propositions based on branding, essentially. So that's, the core idea. I asked myself, so what if we productize this kind of process of generating a good hit rate for new concepts? So we would go to our clients and say, hey, why don't we, do 5 concepts or 10 concepts, and if we can get 2 on the shelf, that's a big success for you. And we'll do it in a way that is, there's an exact kind of scientific method for doing this. I mean, it's actually a very creative process, but we mixed the kind of the insights and the step-by-step methods, where some of them were really research-based and some of them were really purely creative and design-led. And part of the reason why I want to, by the way, to show this is because a lot of people are skeptical as to whether creativity can be productized and whether these types of services can be productized, but they definitely can. And I'm living proof. So we actually had very little automation involved here. We just learned how to do this really, really well, consistently over time. We ran all these workshops. They were mostly for insights and ideas, and the clients were involved. The clients really loved being part of these workshops where they could come up with ideas. To be quite honest, the ideas changed usually radically after the workshops, but at least they had a buy-in, and there was a great engagement thing for the client. teams, and occasionally they came up with some really brilliant ideas which turned into the products. But I would say that the work really started as we learned from their insights and their ideas. So once we had like an ideation workshop and we had briefings, we would go back and we would start to come up with more ideas. So we did more research, we would come up with ideas, and we started knocking out these different conceptual directions, just like you would do in any creative conceptual, creative process. So it wasn't, super standardized at that point. There was just like a step-by-step process. And so, but the thing is, we became so good at it that we knew whether we were working with, lifestyle products or healthy drinks or spirits, the macro trends in the world are pretty much the same. So we could start to reuse a lot of the materials and a lot of the insights materials. We knew of all the packaging, websites and everything, all the inspiration. So the designers became really, really fast and really good at coming up with new concepts. We did this first successfully in the spirits industry, and then we went into all kinds of FMCG. Even we ended up one point doing toilet paper, and that's where I think we drew the line. But apart from that, we did candy, we did protein bars, we did healthy foods, a lot actually, wines. We did a lot of different coffees and coffee-related products, and you name it. We were there. We were really doing it. So, having done 400 to 500 different concepts, let's say maybe a quarter of them actually hit the stores. And really, when I walk into supermarkets and spirit stores and stuff, I still see products that I were part of creating. One of the ones which I was interviewed for Wallpaper magazine for was this one brand called Nordic Spirits Lab. It was funny. Here's one of the first prototypes for it. It was one of my designers actually spray painted this bottle white, and we just thought, wow, that looks really cool and different. Let's play with that, and we came up with this really cool design concept, which was completely random. And of course, in retrospect, we would like to think that we were just so skilled designers, and aesthetics had such aesthetic depth that we came up with this. But this is how it sometimes goes. And I'm revealing that just because I want you to know that when you're in a beta process, you're basically just testing, you're just experimenting, and it's almost like a process for serendipity. You'll come up with things that you didn't know that you knew or that were going to work, just because it's not a linear, logical process. And that's true of when you productize. The more important thing than coming up with the right answer is to create movement. And that's really what people, designers and people who work with, whether it's strategic design thinking, or any other, fancy name for the process of creation, really do. It's really about, exploring. It's about coming up with ideas and testing, and that way you'll discover some place which is usually really, really interesting. So we were running all these kinds of workshops with clients. We did tastings. We did insights workshops. We went to some other countries to interview people who were true experts in flavors and this and that. It was a really, really fun experience. And from a business perspective, of course, which I'm really here to talk about, the cool thing was this was so profitable. It was so profitable because we were able to deliver something of high value, but we were able to take out so many unnecessary steps, in the process. And so if you're wondering how much did we charge for these concepts, so we started at 25,000 euros, which is almost $30,000 each. We had some clients that bought 20, 30 concepts at a time. So we came down somewhere to 15K, but they would say the average was 20 and probably a bit over 20,000 per concept. So that was really cool. And we learned how to do this really, really quickly. Because I was always under NDA, I don't like to show the actual presentation deck, because what we really delivered, the deliverable of this whole thing, was a presentation that our clients could use and go to the trade, and rather than just talking about different tastes and ideas on a very vague level, we came with the same format, which was always about like, what are some trends, what are some consumer insights, and what is a framing, a hypothesis based on that, and an idea based on that, and mood board and data to support this, insight. And then we created these visual prototypes, which I'm sure today you could probably start doing this in AI as I'm recording this, but this was what we were doing. And these visual prototypes were really, really powerful in selling in these concepts to both our client, but also to the end client. So really what I want to leave you with is this idea of like, hey, if you're considering productizing and you're in some of these industries where you have a creative element, don't hold back. Productizing is the key to profitability, scalability, to consistency, and to running a great business. And the type of business that you can sell someday, which you can't do if you run an all custom business in most cases, unless you grow it really big. So hopefully that was valuable to you. And if you want to join beta or inquire, go to thesimplecompany.com/beta and learn more. Thank you very much.